Hello everyone, this is Christian Maddox, Non-Interactive, and in this video we are going to add the ability to add and update different plans. So as far as updating goes, if we go into our plan here, it's at 38. We'll make that 40 and 10. We want these all to add up to 100. So we go back, they're updating, it's being saved to the store. We can create a new plan. Complain to us if it's not add up to 100. So we have our test plan, and those are being saved. And of course, I'll talk about one little issue that we need to deal with at the end of the video. Again, we're just going to focus on adding and updating plans to our store. Alright, as usual, before we get started here, I'd like to say thank you for watching the video and for subscribing. Of course, if you're not a subscriber, I hope you'll please consider subscribing to the channel. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started here. So the main thrust of this video is to make it so that we can add and update plans. So we're going to need to add some more to our store. First thing that we're going to add to the store is, well, in these, once again, make sure I'm focused on the right thing. So we have our store types file somewhere. Store types. And so right now we have our getters. This is, I'm adding or updating something we should have done before. We have our store getters interface, which right now extends the iAccounts and securities. Well, we do have some getters from portfolio here, so let's go ahead and import those. So now that we have those, we can use that to extend these. Portfolio, why would you? And since we're extending, we no longer need that statement there for TSLint. Let's go ahead and save that. All right, so if you remember, or one of the first things we're going to deal with is the fact that if we're creating a plan, right now, we have no way of setting the percentages for the categories, and that is due to, if we go into the portfolio module, if we do, where we got getters here, what we're doing is passing in, for when we're creating, we're passing in a plan ID of 0 because we do not have a plan yet. So it looks for a plan with an ID of 0, of course doesn't find anything, and so we don't receive any categories back. So let's modify how we're using this getter here. So we'll say if plan ID, if it's really 0, or but we'll do less or equal here. So if it's less or equal to 0, what we'll do is we'll return the getters. And the whole reason I started with changing that first file that we did is because now I want this, instead of portfolio getters, we're going to call that store getters. So we have the other getters within our store. So which one are we going to get? We want the, I think that I need to import this. We need the getter for security categories. Getter security categories. And we're going to use that one. Come here, you. Here. So now we have that getter, and so that gives us all of the security categories. So let's just map over that. We'll create a portfolio category. Portfolio category model. Do I have that imported? I do not. Change those notes there. Let's do this. So that's @/store portfolio getter. And where should we go? Right there. It's complaining because it's single quoted right now, but we'll let Prettier take care of that. And let's see, we need to pass in our configuration here. So we have a category ID, which is the ID for X that we're going over. We also need to set the ID. Now this is being used as the key in our plan details there. So I would normally put like a 0 there, but we're going to get View complaining at us that we have items with the same key. So let's just put the ID from X for now. We'll set present to start with 0, and we'll have our plan ID on 0 because we're creating the plan in the first place. So now we have this portfolio category. What we'll do is to not be outside of the return statement. So what we want then is the portfolio category that we're creating here. Of course, not the one that was highlighted, the category. It has a method on there for set category, so let's pass in the X. And let's just return that. So now we are getting all of those. So if the plan ID is less or equal to 0, we will just get all of the security categories. We'll create new portfolio categories and we'll send that along. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. So I guess next up, what do I do? Next up, we're going to our details view. And let's change portfolio getter. And we need the getter for portfolio categories. And we need the type for it. So getter portfolio categories. And we're going to need the portfolio plan model. Perfect. Let's come down here. So right now what we're doing is this.id, if it's less or equal to 0, we're just returning. So let's go ahead and say that this.portfolio categories, this.getter, define it first, fool. So we have getter is our decorator, the one that we have, the categories, so private, read only, and getter portfolio categories. Now we can do this dot getter portfolio categories, pass in 0, and we're still return, so we're good there. So now we have all of our categories. Needless to say, right now we have a little ticking time bomb going on in here by just setting these categories from the plan and these straight from, well, we'll see later on what our problem is and we'll fix it later. For now, let's just come down to our save for no good reason really at this moment, but let's just add in the portfolio plan model. So when we do actually get around to saving, either updating or adding will be ready. So we'll say categories. This is sort of our problem right here. Portfolio categories. And then we'll say ID, this.id, and the name is this.name. Perfect. So let's just console log our plan for now, because right now we cannot do anything with it, because our next step is to do something with it. And we're going to start off by going to our store constants file here. We're going to need 2, or actually 4, I guess, two actions and 2 mutations. So we need a constant for adding a portfolio plan, which we'll put right there. So add a portfolio plan. We'll need a constant for updating the portfolio plan. And as I always say, actions are useless without the mutations. So we'll come down here. We'll have a mutation for adding a plan. And we'll have a constant for the mutation for updating said plan. Save that. We're done with our constants now. We do need to go into our portfolio types. And in here, we're going to set the payloads that we expect when we execute those actions. For both of them, of course, it's just the plan model. So let's go ahead and save that. We're just about ready to modify our portfolio module to take care of this. But before we do that, we have this functions file within our store, which contains our functions for adding, find all, find by ID, those type. We're going to slightly modify our add function, which we probably should have already done this previously anyway. But so the add is, of course, adding an item to our store. We're using it mainly so it'll automatically set the ID for us based on the index in that store or that state. What I'm going to do here is just return the item. Main reason that we're using that or returning that item is, of course, we want to get the ID from it. Let's go ahead and save that. Now we can go back to the portfolio module here. Before we can do much, though, we have to do some importing. So we'll import the constants for adding and updating actions. And we need the constants for mutations as well, both adding and updating. We're going to use, surprise, surprise, that add function that we just modified. We need to know the payload types that are coming in, and those are in our portfolio types file. So we've got those now. And we're going to add actions and mutations to our module here. So we need our store action tree, and we need our store mutation tree. All right, so let's first up, before actually changing those parts of the store, let's add a function here, function total %. Just because I want to check. So if we pass in a portfolio plan model, which apparently in the notes here I do not import, so that's in there. Let's go ahead and put that in order. Portfolio plan model. I guess you belong up here. All right, so that's a function. So what we'll do is we'll take total is equal to, if we look at the plan that's being passed in, we check those categories. Let's reduce, and we'll have a pre and a current value. And to get to the next, we take the pre, add it to the current %. It's complaining right now because we need to set the initial value to 0. That way it knows that the pre is a number. And we'll say that if total is not equal to, I guess we'll just say not equal to 100, that will just console log a statement, which I don't feel like typing again. So total % of the plan must be 100%, but the current % is blah, blah, blah. We'll return true to indicate that it's invalid, and we'll return false here. TSLint's complaining, so let's just disable that there. So let's add some actions. So we'll export const portfolio actions store action tree. Constant here. So let's add some actions. So view action. The action that we're going to add first, action, add portfolio plan, payload, add portfolio plan. And now we are able to say that, need to update that. So if we'll say total %, pass in the payload. So if that returns true, there was a problem. So we'll just return now. And otherwise, we'll say that we want to commit mutation for adding a portfolio plan and pass in the payload. So we have an action for adding the plan. The action, this one is the action for updating a portfolio plan. Payload update portfolio plan. Same deal here, should be right. And yep, so we'll just steal this. Come here, you. And of course, we just need to change this to update. So now we have our portfolio actions in place. We need to do those mutations. Let's come down here, export const portfolio mutations. It's a type of store mutation tree. So let's add in a mutation, and surprise, surprise, we'll start off with the adding payload add portfolio plan. So we'll say const plan is equal to, we brought in the function that we needed for add. We'll have our store state. Which one are we talking about? State portfolio plans. Pass in the thing that we're adding. And we can, since it's a scalar property, just do our sorting when we add it by name. We do need to say that the payload dot categories dot, so we need to go over each of the categories that's coming in. And this is the reason why we wanted to modify the add function, because now we have a category here, which we need to set the plan ID to, which is the plan.id. And now we can do the add on this, which is store state, which one, portfolio categories. What are we adding? What we're going over, the X. And we should be good to go for adding. Now we need to add the update. So update a portfolio plan, payload, update, portfolio plan. So in here we'll get to the const of portfolio categories and store state, and we'll do state portfolio categories, yes. Look in those items, filter them. We only want the ones that have a plan ID equal to the payload.id. So this plan that we're passing in. So now that we have those, let's go ahead and, just because I use it in a couple different places, portfolio plan state, and that's the store state of state portfolio plans. Let's find a plan. And we have our find by ID function, portfolio plan state. We need to tell it which one, but we have a payload with an ID. Say that we found it, because we're about to check anyway. Store action validator dot begin, and now we do while, and we are store updating. Throw if plan that is undefined. Let's give it the message. What were we checking for? A portfolio plan. Which one? The one with that ID. And let's say portfolio plan state index. So now we have it. Let's say we need to update the name. And so we have a payload name coming in. And let's update the portfolio categories. So for each, let's go over each of those. What we'll do is we have a category, and that's equal to, so we're looking through our plan. Maybe we should do it the other way, who knows. What I'm assuming is that we have a set of categories. Each plan has a value for each of the categories. Could have a bunch of extra plan or categories that we add in. We'll just set those to 0 if we didn't want any of them in there, but then they're all the same number of them. So we look through the categories. We're going to find y, where y's ID is equal to x ID. We're going to cheat and say we found it without checking to be sure. Say category dot percent even is equal to the x dot percent, and now we're good to go. So now we have, of course, the ability to add and update. Well, in principle we have them. Right now our store is not aware of them. So let's open up the store.ts file, and up here we're going to bring in our portfolio actions, portfolio mutations. So of course it starts with getters just to mess with me. So we have our actions now, and we need to spread on the portfolio mutations. And now our store is aware of the actions and the mutations. And with that then, we can go back to our planner details page here, and we're going to import the constants for the actions. So I'll put that there, and of course get our payload. Whoops, go into the right spot, payloads. So we need to add those actions to our class. So we use our decorator. Which one? Add the portfolio plan. Read only, add a plan. It's an action function of payload, add portfolio plan. We'll add the other action of action, update portfolio plan, private, read only, update plan, action function, payload, update, portfolio plan. Back down to our save, we can get rid of our console log here. We'll switch on the this.id. Some places I've taken care of the fact that it's less or equal to 0. I'm assuming it to be 0. The only way it's not going to be 0 and then -1 is if somebody goes up to the URL and types in -1, which they do that. Oh well. So case equals 0. We add a plan. That plan, let's break, and default, we do this.update plan and break. Save that. So let me just so I get when we initially created this, or the initial state for our portfolio, to add in that one plan. Let's create one. I'm just going to put the same percentages because that way I know it adds up to 100. So now we have this plan. If we check, our numbers are set here. Let's go ahead and up this by 2 and down by 2. Save that, go back in. It's being saved. Now our problem was going to arise here, so let's take a look. I guess we can open this up. Let's go ahead and just bump this one up to 50. Save it. We get our console log statement, which is good. But if we take a look in the store here, hopefully that's going to be big enough to see. So this is the final one. If we go in here and check out, let's see, portfolio plans, we have this plan here. It has categories. If we check the first category, that first category's percent is set to 50, even though we bailed out of it by using that return statement. And it's basically just boiling down to how we're doing these categories in here, either there or we could create new categories from this and then send them down. It's just that we have the categories from the store actually being referenced and we're modifying those. But we're going to save that to be probably the first thing that we change in the next video. But until then, I will talk to you later. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. I know that your time is valuable. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and click the thumbs up button, as well as share the video with your friends. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. And once again, thank you, and I will talk to you in the next video.